Hello, Dr. Newsome. Welcome back to Sage.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
About 2 months ago, we talked about the end times. Now, here we have the war going on with Israel and Iran. Is this it? Is this the end time coming near?
I don't think it's the end times, but I think we're getting to Bible fulfillment. When it talks about wars and rumors of wars, nation rises against nation, kingdom against kingdom, Israel was actually like a pivotal point when they would take part in war. But actually, this could be the brink of the Third World War. Now, that would be really interesting because then you'd have to plug in Armageddon. It basically just looking at how all this is going to play out. And it's interesting because of solar eclipse that just took place, and then conveniently, Iran attacks Israel. None of this is coincidental. These are all biblical events that have been prophesied, that have been spoken about, and all you see in a fulfillment of all these scriptures that prophets prophesied many years ago. But the Bible clearly declares the end is not yet. These are just the beginning of sorrows.
There's a lot of exposure that is happening right now in many formats. Does the Bible talk about those types of things also?
A lot of things that we see today at a lot of preachers, a lot of churches, a lot of politicians, a lot of religious leaders. There's so many things that's being uncovered and exposed. Anything that's done in the dark is going to be exposed in the light. These things have to happen because God is going to show us righteousness in its fullness. And I know a lot of people don't give hats off to President Trump, but actually President Trump was exposing a lot of crooked people. And that's one reason they do not want him to become president again, and didn't want him to become president, because they knew he would expose a lot of ungodly acts, a lot of ungodly people. And still, because the Bible talks about evil people love to do evil deeds, but they try to hide their evil deeds that you and I and nobody else is supposed to know about them.
When Jesus comes back to reign, tell us about that. When is he to return? Right after Armageddon?
If I'm correct, I think it will be after Armageddon, but after that point, peace has to be established back on the earth. And I think it's going to be after Armageddon, but I think it's going to be that period where a righteous leader is going to come into play and establish righteousness throughout the earth again. To me, Armageddon is actually getting ready to mount itself up right now. I think this Third World War that I believe is going to happen not too far from now, but I think that Third World War is going to set the stage for Armageddon to take place. I think a righteous king is going to come on the scene, and that king, that leader, is going to bring everybody back to righteousness to set the stage for Christ's return. And that righteousness that's going to be established, everybody's going to understand as righteousness because they have adhered to evil so long that they will understand this is a righteous king, this is a righteous leader. But that king's job is to establish righteousness in the earth to prepare the world for the return of Jesus.
What do you say to those people who may feel that there is no God, if he can allow war to happen and people to die and stuff like that?
That's an excellent question. And what I would say about that is, nevertheless, people still have to trust in God, because their trusting in man has failed them already. And it's not going to get any better. Their trust and confidence has to stay in God, has to stay in the Creator of the entire universe. In spite of what's going on, look at Dubai getting flooded. God doesn't care nothing about Dubai's tall buildings and Dubai gold bars and their Lamborghinis and Rolls. That doesn't mean nothing to God. That's all this material. That was made from all God's material.
Do you think the war that's happening is another psyop?
I think what this war is doing is that these countries around the world for the last, I could say 15 to 20 years, they've been trying to get one world order. That would be the fulfillment of scripture, because the Bible talks about one head of a 10-headed dragon. But the one head was in charge of the other 10 heads of the dragon, which now, and the Bible talks about the other 10 heads gave their power to the one dragon. Those were talking about world leaders. So all these world leaders are going to come together at some point in time, but these other leaders are going to give their power to the one leader.
I know that you're short on time, so I'm not going to keep you much longer, but I wanted to ask you, what advice would you give to the world at this time, knowing that people are fearing World War III, what advice would you give people to prepare spiritually?
I would tell people this: keep following the pattern and the pathway God has set in your heart to follow. You have to trust God. He knows everything that's going on. He knows everything that's happening in the world. He's your only source you can trust. The Bible tells us don't put our confidence in man because man will fail us every single time. Your confidence has to be in God. And that's what I would encourage everybody. Don't give up on God. Trust Him. Yes, there's things going on around the entire world, and World War III may be breaking out, but still your confidence has to stay in God.
Dr. Newsome, thank you once again for coming on to Sage.
My pleasure, Queen Addie Wise. Love you. Thank you.
Love you too. Thank you. Dr. Frederick Ware Newsome.